Welcome to the re-release of Season 2, So You Want to Be an Influencer. We are excited to share this content again with a Common Core aligned unit of study, guiding students through activities that help them think about their own personal brand and eventually create content for the school's brand. So You Want to Be an Influencer empowers students to tell their story and to make a positive difference. With the re-release, each episode is accompanied with a viewing reflection guide to help students think about who they are and how they can become an influencer, as well as activities they can do individually or with others to apply the content from the lesson. It is our hope here at Class Intercom that helping students dive into social media with purpose can not only gain skills to grow as a digital citizen, but also tell your school's story. So let's get started.
So you know you want to be a social media influencer. Now it's time to know who your audience is and how you can engage them. Let's get started. This is CGTV Episode 2. I am your host, Mitch Fisher. Today, we are talking about knowing your audience. If you learn nothing else from this video, know this. If you don't have a firm grasp on who your audience is, you will never be able to influence. You can't just be putting random posts out there in the World Wide Web expecting people to care. You have to know who you are talking to in order to pique their interest, start a conversation, and get them to do the thing, whatever that's going to be. Could be buying something, could be attending an event, could just be interacting with you. The 3 things we'll be covering today is number 1, pinpointing your audience. Number 2, creating content for your audience. And number 3, practicing at your school. Now, pinpointing who your audience is a very time-consuming process, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it is the most effective thing you can start with in order to ensure that you are having effective conversations and posting engaging content. Now think about it this way. You don't talk to your teacher the same way that you talk to your friend. The topics you're talking about, the way that you address them is a little different. If you don't know exactly who you're talking to, things could get a little awkward. That is why we have to have a firm grasp on who is consuming our content, who we want to consume our content. Here are some great questions to start asking yourself. Who are your people? What is their age, location, interests, and hobbies? What platforms are they living on? Where do they hang out online? What about in person? What do they want to hear? Why should they care about you? Doing some critical thinking about these questions is absolutely vital. Do your research. You can even take it a step further and develop a persona. Essentially, a persona is a description of a fictional individual that is the embodiment of your target audience. You can even give them a name and fill out as many details as you'd like about them. It's also important to keep in mind that your content for each of the platforms needs to be different. Your audience isn't going to follow you on all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If everything's the same, why would they? Don't be afraid to shake it up and tailor your posts to different segments of your audience. To illustrate this point, we're going to play a little game called Which Post to Post? Yeah! Now, I'm going to show you 3 potential posts we could use to promote our high school's football game going on this week. I want you to choose the post that would most engage the student body. Ready? Here we go. All right, so on the left, we have an Instagram story. We have the Sea Dragons versus the Sun Bears. Who do you think will win? And we can even place a little poll sticker on the bottom. Very cool. In the middle, we have a Facebook post created that says, come out tonight at 7 p.m. for our first home football game. Cool, cool. And finally, we have a tweet that involves emojis saying game day versus Sun Bears, where it's at home, time 7 p.m. Be there. You might even argue that there's 2 pretty good options, but what would you say is the number 1 best option if we're trying to engage a student body? Yep. Given that I can't hear you, I am going to assume that you got that correct and said the Instagram story on the left, and yes, that would be a great one. You also could have said the tweet. That's not technically wrong. I would say it's probably the 2nd best option on there. The Facebook post, that was just a bad Facebook post anyway. Come on. Something to keep in mind, you're not going to create excellent content right off the bat that engages your audience right away. This is where trial and error comes into play. Start by just creating posts and posting. There's no shame in posting something that you don't think is perfect, because not everything's going to be perfect, especially when you're getting started. Take a look at the posts that are doing well by utilizing the built-in analytical tools. Then make a list of things about those posts that make them good posts, and try and replicate those in the future with future posts. Eventually, you'll know exactly what works best for engagement, and you can just do that in a different form every time you post. Also, it's super important to mention, it doesn't hurt to follow other schools, other brands, other personal brands, bloggers, influencers that are doing kind of what you want to do and get inspired by them. In fact, that's one of the single most useful things you can do with your time, is looking at people that are already doing kind of what you want to do very well. Write down ideas and learn from them. Maybe even if you're feeling really gutsy, you could DM them and ask to set up a meeting and learn from them. It is now time to put this knowledge into practice at your school. If you haven't already done some kind of exercise to identify your audience at your school, there's some things to keep in mind. Now, your audience is most likely teachers, students, staff members, community members, including alumni. Which platforms do you think these individual audience segments check the most? Here's a hint. For the most part, your Instagram content is going to be consumed by students. And for the most part, your Facebook content will be consumed by parents, teachers, staff, and alumni. Twitter might bring in a mixture of all these different audience segments. Although it's pretty easy to predict which audiences are going to be most heavily consuming your content on any given platform, it's important to not leave out different audience segments on different platforms just because you know that students might be using Instagram more than Facebook. Keep things unique. Thank you all for chilling with me. I hope you've all learned a lot out of this episode. If you ever have any questions or just want to chat, DM me at Class Intercom on Instagram. I'm monitoring that. I would love to get to know you all and help out and maybe be helped by you. Also, don't forget there's a worksheet you can fill out that goes along with this episode that you can find at classintercom.com. Next time on October 14th, we'll be talking about strategizing and planning your content out. Until then, go make a positive difference on social media.